Hello, and welcome back to Speak English Daily.
Hi, everyone. We are very happy to see you here today.
Let me ask you something. Have you ever listened to someone speak and thought, there's something different about them?
Yeah, you don't even notice what they're saying at first. It's how they're saying it.
Right. And here's the interesting part. Most people think those speakers are just naturally talented.
Like they were born confident, born articulate.
Exactly. But that belief is the first thing we need to break, because it's wrong.
So you're saying people aren't born great speakers?
They're not. What we call legendary speaking is actually a set of learnable behaviors, patterns, habits, choices.
That's good news because it means anyone can improve.
Not just improve, transform, but only if they understand what actually creates that effect.
Because most people focus on the wrong things.
Completely wrong things. They think speaking better means using bigger words.
Or speaking faster to sound fluent.
Or trying to sound like someone else.
I've seen that a lot. People copying accents, copying style.
And losing their own voice in the process.
So if those things don't work, what does?
Here's the big idea. Legendary speakers don't try to impress people. They focus on making their message clear, strong, and easy to feel.
Easy to feel, not just understand.
Exactly. Because speaking is not just about information, it's about impact.
That's a big shift.
It is. Think about it. You can say something simple, but if you say it with clarity, confidence, and the right timing, it hits harder than complicated language.
So it's not what you say, it's how you deliver it.
And why you say it. That matters too.
Most people don't think about that part.
No, they don't. They speak without intention. They just react, fill silence, or try to sound good enough.
Which is why they sound forgettable.
Exactly. And here's the truth most people won't tell you. Sounding average has nothing to do with your English level.
That's interesting.
You can have perfect grammar and still sound weak.
And you can have simple English and still sound powerful.
That's the difference. Legendary speakers focus on delivery skills that most learners completely ignore.
So in this episode, we're not just talking about speaking English better.
No, we're going deeper. We're breaking down how to speak in a way that people actually listen to, remember, and respect.
And we're going step by step.
Simple, practical, and usable. No theory you forget in 5 minutes.
That's important.
Because by the end of this, you should start noticing a shift in how you speak and how people respond to you.
That's the real result.
Not just speaking more, but speaking in a way that carries weight.
I like that. Carries weight.
So, if you've ever felt like people don't really listen when you speak,
Or you struggle to express your thoughts clearly,
or you just want to sound more confident and natural,
then you're in the right place.
because what we're about to cover is not talent.
It's a skill set,
And once you see it clearly, you can start building it.
step by step.
All right, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So, before we jump into how to improve, we need to understand what we're actually aiming for.
Yeah, because speaking like a legend sounds nice, but what does it really mean?
Good question. Let's make it real. When you hear someone and instantly respect their voice, what are you actually noticing?
I'd say clarity first. They don't confuse you.
Exactly. Legendary speakers are easy to follow, no mental effort required.
You don't have to guess what they mean.
And that's rare. Most people speak in a messy way. They start a sentence, change direction, add extra words.
And by the end, you're lost.
Right. So the first trait is clarity. Clean thoughts, clean sentences.
That alone can change everything.
It really can. Now, the second trait, confidence.
That one's obvious, right?
People think it is, but they misunderstand it.
How so?
Confidence in speaking is not about sounding loud or aggressive.
Or pretending to be fearless.
Exactly. It's about sounding certain, even when your language is simple.
So no hesitation, no constant doubt in your voice.
Yes, no, maybe, I think, I'm not sure, but every second sentence.
That kills your impact.
Completely. Legendary speakers trust what they're saying, and it shows.
Okay, so we have clarity and confidence.
Now, let's talk about something most people ignore: rhythm.
That's interesting. People don't usually think about rhythm in speaking.
But they feel it. That's the key.
What do you mean by rhythm?
The flow of your speech, how fast or slow you talk, where you pause, how your sentences rise and fall.
So it's almost like music.
Exactly. If someone speaks at the same speed, same tone, no pauses,
It becomes boring very quickly.
yes, even if the content is good.
So rhythm keeps people engaged.
And it gives your words weight. A well-placed pause can be more powerful than a long sentence.
That's a big insight.
Now, the last trait: presence.
That one sounds abstract.
It does, but it's simple. Presence means you sound like you're fully there.
Not distracted, not unsure.
Yes, you're not rushing, you're not hiding, you're not trying to escape the moment.
You own the moment.
Exactly, and people can feel that instantly.
So if we put it all together,
Clarity, confidence, rhythm, presence.
that's the foundation.
And here's something important: none of these require advanced English.
That's huge.
You can have perfect grammar and still sound weak.
And you can have simple English and still sound powerful.
That's the difference. Legendary speakers focus on delivery skills that most learners completely ignore.
So in this episode, we're not just talking about speaking English better.
No, we're going deeper. We're breaking down how to speak in a way that people actually listen to, remember, and respect.
And we're going step by step.
Simple, practical, and usable. No theory you forget in 5 minutes.
That's important.
Because by the end of this, you should start noticing a shift in how you speak and how people respond to you.
That's the real result.
Not just speaking more, but speaking in a way that carries weight.
I like that. Carries weight.
So, if you've ever felt like people don't really listen when you speak,
Or you struggle to express your thoughts clearly,
or you just want to sound more confident and natural,
then you're in the right place.
because what we're about to cover is not talent.
It's a skill set,
And once you see it clearly, you can start building it.
step by step.
All right, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So, before we jump into how to improve, we need to understand what we're actually aiming for.
Yeah, because speaking like a legend sounds nice, but what does it really mean?
Good question. Let's make it real. When you hear someone and instantly respect their voice, what are you actually noticing?
I'd say clarity first. They don't confuse you.
Exactly. Legendary speakers are easy to follow, no mental effort required.
You don't have to guess what they mean.
And that's rare. Most people speak in a messy way. They start a sentence, change direction, add extra words.
And by the end, you're lost.
Right. So the first trait is clarity. Clean thoughts, clean sentences.
That alone can change everything.
It really can. Now, the second trait, confidence.
That one's obvious, right?
People think it is, but they misunderstand it.
How so?
Confidence in speaking is not about sounding loud or aggressive.
Or pretending to be fearless.
Exactly. It's about sounding certain, even when your language is simple.
So no hesitation, no constant doubt in your voice.
Yes, no, maybe, I think, I'm not sure, but every second sentence.
That kills your impact.
Completely. Legendary speakers trust what they're saying, and it shows.
Okay, so we have clarity and confidence.
Now, let's talk about something most people ignore: rhythm.
That's interesting. People don't usually think about rhythm in speaking.
But they feel it. That's the key.
What do you mean by rhythm?
The flow of your speech, how fast or slow you talk, where you pause, how your sentences rise and fall.
So it's almost like music.
Exactly. If someone speaks at the same speed, same tone, no pauses,
It becomes boring very quickly.
yes, even if the content is good.
So rhythm keeps people engaged.
And it gives your words weight. A well-placed pause can be more powerful than a long sentence.
That's a big insight.
Now, the last trait: presence.
That one sounds abstract.
It does, but it's simple. Presence means you sound like you're fully there.
Not distracted, not unsure.
Yes, you're not rushing, you're not hiding, you're not trying to escape the moment.
You own the moment.
Exactly, and people can feel that instantly.
So if we put it all together,
Clarity, confidence, rhythm, presence.
that's the foundation.
And here's something important: none of these require advanced English.
That's huge,
You can speak at an intermediate level and still have all four.
which means most people don't lack vocabulary.
They lack control over how they use what they already know.
That changes how you look at improvement.
Completely. You stop chasing more words and start mastering delivery.
That's where the real difference is.
Now, I want to ask our listeners something. When you listen to someone speaking English, what is the one thing that makes you respect their voice instantly? Is it their confidence, clarity, tone, or something else? Write your answer in the comments section.
That's a good question. It makes you think about what actually stands out.
And once you notice it, you can start building it.
So now that we know what creates that legend effect,
We can start breaking down how to actually develop it.
step by step,
Let's move to the first skill.
let's go.
Let's start with the real first skill. And honestly, this one changes everything.
More than vocabulary? More than pronunciation?
Yes, because this is what controls both of those. It's simple: thinking before you speak.
Sounds obvious, but most people don't do it.
Exactly. They start talking and then try to figure out what they want to say while speaking.
Which leads to confusion, fillers, and awkward pauses.
Right. You hear things like, actually, I mean, what I want to say is.
And the sentence just keeps stretching.
That's not a speaking problem, that's a thinking problem.
So what should people do instead?
Pause, even 1 or 2 seconds before speaking.
That feels uncomfortable for many learners.
It does, but here's the truth. That short pause makes you sound more confident, not less.
Because it shows control.
Exactly. It tells the listener, I know what I'm about to say.
So step one is just pause and think?
Yes, but we need to make that thinking structured. Otherwise, you'll still feel lost.
Okay, so how do we structure thoughts quickly?
I'll give you a very simple framework. Use this anytime you speak. Point, reason, example.
That sounds easy to remember.
It is. Let's break it down.
Go ahead.
First, you make your point. One clear idea.
Not 5 ideas at once.
Exactly. Just one. Then you give a reason why you think that way.
And then an example to make it real.
Yes, that's it. 3 steps.
Can you show how that sounds in real speech?
Sure. Let's say someone asks, why is speaking practice important?
Okay.
Point, speaking practice is the fastest way to improve fluency.
Clear.
Reason, because it forces you to think and respond in real time.
Makes sense.
Example, for example, when you have a conversation, you can't stop and translate everything, so your brain adapts faster.
That sounds smooth and natural.
And notice something, no complicated words.
But it still sounds strong.
Because it's structured, that's what gives it power.
I can see how this helps people avoid getting stuck mid-sentence.
Exactly. When your brain knows the path, you don't panic.
What if someone feels like they don't have time to think like this in real conversations?
Good question. At first, it will feel slow.
That's normal.
But with practice, it becomes automatic. You won't say point, reason, example in your head.
You'll just follow the pattern naturally.
Yes, and your speech becomes clearer without extra effort.
Are there other simple structures people can use?
Yes, here's another one. Past, present, future.
That sounds useful for storytelling.
Exactly. For example, if someone asks about your learning journey,
You start with the past,
in the past, I struggled to speak confidently.
then present,
Now I can express my ideas more clearly.
and future.
And I want to become even more fluent by practicing daily.
That flows really well.
And again, simple language, strong delivery.
So the goal is not to speak more.
It's to speak in a clear direction.
That's a big difference.
Most people speak in circles. Legendary speakers speak in lines.
Straight to the point.
And easy to follow.
I like that.
So from now on, don't rush to speak. Take a second, choose your structure.
And then deliver.
That one habit alone will instantly make you sound more organized and confident.
And that's just step one.
Exactly. We're just getting started.
Let's move forward.
Let's talk about something that most learners completely misunderstand: speed.
Yeah, a lot of people think speaking fast means speaking well.
Exactly. They believe speed equals fluency.
But in reality, it often does the opposite.
It does. When you speak too fast, three things happen. You lose clarity,
You lose control.
and the listener gets tired.
Right. Fast speech without control feels chaotic.
So what should people aim for instead?
Control your pace. Not too fast, not too slow, but intentional.
Intentional is the key word.
Yes, legendary speakers don't rush. They decide how fast they speak.
That already sounds like authority.
Because it is. When you slow down slightly, you send a signal.
That you're comfortable. That you're in control. That you don't need to rush to prove anything.
That's powerful.
And here's something most people don't realize. Slowing down actually improves your thinking.
Because you give your brain time to organize.
Exactly. You make fewer mistakes. You choose better words. Your sentences become cleaner.
So slowing down helps both the speaker and the listener.
Yes, it's a win on both sides.
But what about pauses? Some people are afraid of silence.
That's because they think silence is awkward.
Isn't it?
Only if you make it awkward. Otherwise, silence is power.
Interesting.
A well-placed pause does three things.
Okay, I'm listening.
First, it gives your words time to land.
So the listener can actually absorb what you said.
Exactly. Second, it builds anticipation.
Like you're about to say something important.
Yes. And third, it gives you time to think.
Without filling space with or
Right. Replace fillers with silence.
That alone can make someone sound more confident.
Instantly. Let me show you the difference.
Go ahead.
Imagine someone says, I think speaking is very important because it helps you improve.
That sounds uncertain.
Now listen to this. I think speaking is very important because it helps you improve.
Same idea, completely different impact.
And all we changed was pace and pauses.
That's crazy.
Most people are not lacking knowledge, they're lacking control over delivery.
So how can someone practice this?
Simple exercise. Record yourself speaking for 1 minute.
About any topic?
Yes. Then listen and ask yourself, am I rushing?
That's honest feedback.
Then do it again, but this time slow down by about 20%.
Not too slow, just slightly more controlled.
Exactly. And consciously add small pauses after key ideas.
That will feel strange at first.
It will, but it will also sound much better.
So discomfort is part of the process.
Always. Growth feels unnatural in the beginning.
That's a good reminder.
Another tip, breathe.
Sounds simple.
But it's powerful. When you breathe properly, your pace naturally slows down.
And your voice becomes steadier.
Yes, no tension, no rushing.
So pace, pauses, and breathing are all connected.
Exactly. Control one, and the others improve.
I'm starting to see the pattern here.
What pattern?
Legendary speaking is not about doing more.
It's about doing less, but better.
That's a shift.
And once you master your pace, people will start listening differently.
Because you sound more intentional.
More confident, more grounded.
That's the goal.
All right, let's keep going.
Let's do it.
Here's something that might surprise you. The best speakers don't try to sound smart.
That sounds counterintuitive.
It does, because most learners think the opposite.
They believe better English means bigger words.
Exactly. More complex vocabulary, longer sentences, trying to impress.
But it often backfires.
Almost always. Because when you try to sound complicated, you lose clarity.
And sometimes even confidence.
Yes, you start hesitating, searching for the perfect word.
And your speech becomes slow and unnatural.
That's why legendary speakers do something different.
What do they focus on?
Simplicity, but not weak simplicity. Powerful simplicity.
What's the difference?
Weak simplicity is when you speak in a limited way because you don't know more.
Okay.
Powerful simplicity is when you choose simple words, even though you could say something more complex.
That's a big distinction.
It is, because it shows control. You're not trying to prove anything.
You're trying to communicate clearly.
Exactly. Think about it. Which sounds stronger?
Go on.
I believe it is significantly beneficial to engage in consistent verbal communication practices.
That already sounds heavy.
Or, it's speaking every day helps you improve faster.
The second one hits immediately.
Clear, direct, easy to understand.
And easier to remember.
That's the key. Legendary speakers are not just understood, they're remembered.
So simple language increases impact.
Yes, because the listener doesn't struggle to decode your message.
They can focus on the meaning.
Exactly. And here's something important. Simple doesn't mean boring.
That's where people get confused.
You can say simple things with strong delivery, good timing, and the right tone.
And it becomes powerful.
Let me show you a quick comparison.
I'm listening.
In my opinion, it is somewhat challenging to maintain consistency.
That feels weak.
Now this. It's hard to stay consistent.
Much stronger.
Same idea, less noise, more impact.
So cutting extra words actually improves your speech.
Yes, remove what's unnecessary, keep what matters.
That also makes speaking easier for learners.
Exactly. You reduce pressure on yourself.
Instead of searching for advanced words, you focus on clear expression.
And that builds confidence faster.
So how can someone practice this?
Simple rule. If you can say it in a simpler way, do it.
Even if you know a more advanced version.
Especially then, that's how you train control.
Any exercise for this?
Yes, take a sentence you would normally say.
Okay.
Then rewrite it using fewer words.
Like simplifying it?
Exactly. For example, I am trying to improve my English speaking skills on a daily basis.
That's common.
Simplify it. I practice speaking every day.
Cleaner and stronger.
Do this regularly, and your speech will naturally become sharper.
I like that approach.
Also, listen to great speakers.
What should we notice?
How often they use simple language.
I think people will be surprised.
They will, because the power is not in complexity.
It's in clarity and delivery.
Exactly. And once you understand this, you stop trying to sound impressive.
And start sounding effective.
That's the real upgrade.
Makes sense.
All right, now that we've simplified the words,
Next step is how we deliver them.
Now we get into something people feel immediately, your voice.
Yeah, this is where speaking either becomes engaging or completely flat.
Exactly. You can have clear ideas, simple words, good structure, but if your voice is flat, people lose interest.
I've experienced that. Same sentence, different voice, totally different impact.
That's because your voice carries emotion, intention, and energy.
So what should we focus on here?
3 things: tone, emphasis, and energy.
Let's break that down.
First, tone. This is the feeling behind your voice.
Like sounding serious, excited, curious?
Exactly. If your tone doesn't match your message, it feels off.
Can you give an example?
Imagine saying, "This is really important," in a bored tone.
That kills the message.
Completely. Now say the same sentence with intention.
This is really important.
See the difference?
Yeah, it feels real.
So your tone should match what you're saying.
That requires awareness.
And practice. Most people don't notice their tone at all.
They just focus on words.
Right. Now the second part. Emphasis.
That's about stressing certain words, right?
Yes, not every word matters equally,
But many learners stress everything the same way.
which makes their speech sound robotic.
So how do we fix that?
Choose key words in your sentence and give them more weight.
Can you show that?
Sure. Listen, you need to practice every day.
Okay.
Now with emphasis, you need to practice every day.
That hits harder.
Because the important part stands out.
So emphasis guides the listener's attention.
Exactly. It tells them what to focus on.
That's powerful.
Now the third part. Energy.
This one seems tricky.
It can be, but think of it simply. Your energy is how alive your voice sounds.
So not too dull and not over the top?
Exactly. You don't need to be loud or dramatic.
Just present and engaged.
Yes, if you sound interested, people will be interested.
And if you sound bored?
They'll feel it instantly.
So energy is contagious.
Very much. Your voice sets the mood.
How can someone improve this?
Start by recording yourself again.
Same method as before?
Yes, but this time focus on your voice, not your words.
Listen for tone, emphasis, and energy.
Exactly. Ask yourself, do I sound alive? Do I highlight important words?
That level of awareness can change a lot.
It really can. Another tip, read something out loud.
Like a short paragraph?
Yes, and exaggerate your tone and emphasis slightly.
Even if it feels unnatural?
Especially then, that's how you train your voice to be more flexible.
So over time, it becomes more natural.
Exactly. You won't stay exaggerated, but you'll stop being flat.
That's the goal.
One more thing, don't try to sound like someone else.
That's important.
Learn from others, but keep your natural voice.
Because authenticity matters.
Always. A controlled, natural voice is far more powerful than a fake one.
So if we combine everything,
Clear tone, intentional emphasis, and balanced energy.
that's how you sound engaging.
And once your voice improves, people will start paying attention without you asking for it.
That's when speaking becomes influence.
Exactly.
All right, this is getting interesting now.
Now we're getting into the part that separates good speakers from unforgettable ones. Intent.
Intent sounds simple, but I feel like most people don't really understand it.
They don't, because they think speaking is just about saying words correctly.
Grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation.
Exactly. But here's the truth. People don't connect with words,
They connect with meaning.
and meaning comes from intent.
So what does it actually mean to speak with intent?
It means you know why you're saying something before you say it.
Not just what, but why.
Yes. Are you trying to explain something, persuade, share an opinion, tell a story?
That purpose shapes how you speak.
Completely. Without intent, your speech feels empty.
Even if the sentence is correct.
Exactly. You can say a perfect sentence and still sound forgettable.
Because there's no conviction behind it.
Right. Now let's talk about confidence and conviction.
Aren't they the same?
Not quite. Confidence is how comfortable you feel speaking.
And conviction?
That's how strongly you believe what you're saying.
Ah, that's a big difference.
You can be confident, but not convincing.
And people will feel that.
Instantly. If you don't believe your own words, why should anyone else?
So conviction adds weight to your message.
Exactly. It gives your words force.
How can someone build that?
Start by choosing ideas you actually believe in.
That makes sense.
Don't just speak to fill silence. Speak because you have something to say.
That already changes your mindset.
It does. Then, simplify your message.
Back to simplicity again?
Always. The clearer your idea, the stronger your conviction.
Because you're not hiding behind complicated language.
Exactly. Now let me show you something.
Go ahead.
Imagine someone says, I think it might be helpful to practice speaking more often.
That sounds unsure.
Now this, practicing speaking every day will improve your fluency.
That sounds much stronger.
Same idea, different intent.
One is weak, the other is direct.
And people respond differently to each.
So removing hesitation words matters.
A lot. Words like maybe, I think, kind of, they reduce your impact.
Should we remove them completely?
Not completely, but use them consciously.
So they don't become a habit.
Exactly. Now here's another important part. Meaning.
What do you mean by meaning?
Feel what you're saying.
That sounds abstract.
It is, but it's real. If you're talking about something important.
Your voice should reflect that.
Yes. If you're sharing a strong opinion, let it sound strong.
So your internal state affects your external voice.
Completely. Speaking is not just mechanical, it's emotional too.
That explains why some people are so engaging.
They're connected to their message.
Not just repeating words.
Exactly. So here's a simple habit.
I'm listening.
Before you speak, ask yourself, what do I want the listener to feel or understand?
That sets your intent.
Yes, and once that's clear, your delivery becomes sharper.
Because you're not guessing anymore.
You're directing your message.
That's powerful.
And when you combine intent with everything we've covered,
Structure, pace, simplicity, voice.
you start sounding different.
In a good way.
In a memorable way.
That's the goal.
All right, time to bring everything together.
Let's wrap it up strong.
Now let's bring everything together. Because knowing these ideas is one thing, but applying them daily is what actually changes your speaking.
Yeah, without a system, it's easy to forget everything after a few days.
Exactly. So let's make this simple. You don't need hours of practice. You need consistency and focus.
So what does a strong daily routine look like?
10 to 15 minutes. That's enough if you do it properly.
That sounds manageable.
Step 1, pick a simple topic.
Like what?
Anything. Your day, your goals, a recent experience, or even a random question.
Okay.
Step 2, take a few seconds to think before you speak.
Using the structure we learned.
Yes, point, reason, example, or any simple framework.
So you're training your thinking first.
Exactly. Then, step 3, speak for 1 to 2 minutes.
No stopping?
Try not to stop. Just keep going, even if it's not perfect.
That builds flow.
Right. Now, step 4, focus on your pace and pauses.
So don't rush.
Yes, slow down slightly. Add small pauses instead of fillers.
That improves control.
Step 5, simplify your language.
Say things in the clearest way possible.
Exactly. Don't try to sound impressive. Try to sound clear.
And step 6?
And finally, record yourself.
That's where most people hesitate.
I know, but this is where real improvement happens.
Because you can actually hear your mistakes.
Yes, and not just mistakes. You hear your voice, your energy, your clarity.
Things you don't notice while speaking.
Exactly. Then, step 7, listen back and ask 3 questions.
What are they?
Was I clear? Did I sound confident? Was my delivery engaging?
That's a solid checklist.
And finally, repeat.
Every day.
Every 5 days a week will create a huge difference over time.
So the goal is not perfection.
It's progress through repetition.
I like that.
And here's something important. Don't wait until you feel ready.
Start as you are.
Yes, improvement comes from action, not preparation.
That removes a lot of pressure,
It should, because this is a skill, not a talent.
which means anyone can build it.
Exactly. If you stay consistent with this system, you'll notice changes.
Like what?
You'll think faster, speak clearer, pause naturally, and sound more confident without forcing it.
And people will start responding differently to you.
That's the real reward, because at the end of the day, speaking well is not about showing how much you know.
It's about making people understand and feel what you say.
That's what legendary speakers do.
And now you have the blueprint.
Simple, practical, and repeatable.
The rest depends on how consistently you apply it.
Exactly. Start small, stay consistent, and build from there.
That's how real progress happens.